Hey, Pepin.
Yo, yo.
Remember last time we teased we were going to continue talking about Greek mythology? Why aren't we just, why don't we just do that right now?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess we need to talk.
We're professionals here at We Need to Talk, and my name's Meader. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Pepin.
Hi.
That was the introduction for Pepin. And we do have back our special guest here, B, to talk about Greek mythology once more and maybe kind of flush out a few more things, get into some different myths that we didn't talk about last time. We teased Hercules since the beginning of the last episode, so we'll probably not talk about it at all because that's kind of our style. But I do want to know, how are you doing, Brieann?
I am fantastic. Thank you. How about you?
I'm here, so I'm ready to talk. Let's get this going. I got some caffeine running through me. Ready to talk about Greek mythology. I know that there are a lot of stories, but one that I like quite a bit that I think would be kind of cool to talk about is the story of Achilles. And I don't know the story very well, so I'm going to tell an awful version, and then you guys are going to correct me. So the story that I know is that a guy is going to be protected, so he's dipped in a fountain of protection juice, and they're holding him by his ankle, and the bit of his ankle that they're holding him by can't be doused in juices. Why the fuck are you laughing?
Protection juice?
I don't know what it's called. I don't know the technical term for invincibility liquids. But the part that he's being held by is his ankle, and his ankle is therefore not protected because he's dipped in, and they just kind of forgot about it, and they're like, oh, well, the chances of that being hit are pretty low, and then it is, and he dies. So that's the story.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that story, but it's like that thing about the arrow to the knee. Like, we think, arrow to the knee, is that really a thing? But I guess it really was a thing back then, If your knee got fucked up, you were kind of screwed. Same with your Achilles tendon.
I actually haven't heard the arrow to the knee one, so that was kind of new. Sorry about that. And Achilles, I do know a little bit of, and actually, I believe River of Styx was what he was dipped into for protection.
This is like the river called, river named Styx, like Styx.
Yes, that's
Okay, not like Styx, like.
right. Styx, and that's where you cross to go to the underworld. And he was dipped in because they give him kind of like the sense of immortality because Achilles was human. So, and as Meter said, that's correct. His mother held him by the ankle area and dipped him in and brought him out, and he was just this awesome war god, but was mortal in that area, mortally wounded. So he went off to war and got like general status and was this really praised guy. And I know he got shot in the Achilles tendon, and that's what did end his demise. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a whole lot of the story, but I do believe it's the River Styx.
Didn't he fall at the Battle of Troy? That huge battle that like all of the gods were taking either side on, and then like there were goddesses involved, and like that was crazy. And then I think he died during that battle, and it was like the battle.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think he died in not the Odyssey, but the Iliad.
Yes.
And that was a big part of what happened, or the kind of results of the Odyssey, or the Iliad leads up to the Odyssey. And it's a big kind of part of it.
Odyssey, Odysseus, Odyssey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if his mother dipped him by his ankle tendon, why did she not just after he dried, like turn him and hold him by like the ears and then drop him in and get the rest of his body? Like, why'd she have to be a little ignorant? Did she like not want to get the protection juice on her?
That is an excellent topic of discussion, actually. Why didn't she?
Is it like a veneer or something, or like a paint? And like if she had touched it, she would have like smudged it, or like left her fingerprints in it or something, and she just didn't want to leave her fingerprints in her son's face.
Well, it was rumored that the river Styx actually draws souls in. Being a mortal, if you're dipped in or exposed to the river Styx, you're kind of starting the process of death, really, essentially. So and this is personal, I believe that had she actually done that, there is no mortality left. It would all just be taken away by the river Styx, because that's the process of death and damnation.
So the only soul he had left was in his heel.
That's powerful.
Man, I didn't know that my soul was in my heel.
I mean, maybe the other explanation would be if by fully dipping him in, maybe he would have been sucked into the underworld.
Right.
So that's the only way she could have like had him come back.
Right. That's actually where I was going with that.
Or maybe she was just an ignorant bitch.
She loved her son. A mother will do anything for her son that she loves.
Okay, so I mean, it seems like we're all pretty much in agreement that she was just an ignorant bitch, but do we remember any of the other stories from the Battle of Troy? Because I know that was like such a huge focal point of Greek mythology in general.
I don't understand that battle at all. It's very, very complex, and I don't.
There's such a strong human base, and when I studied, I wanted to look at the gods and not people, unfortunately, so I don't have a whole lot of knowledge.
Wasn't there someone that kind of like betrayed someone in the story?
I know that Helen of Troy is Zeus's daughter, and she was a queen of Troy, but I don't think it was during this time.
We should have read the Iliad before we came on and actually known what we were talking about. But
The Iliad, have you seen that book? It's like this big.
It's a Bible.
He just held up about 2 feet.
That's actually pretty accurate. It was about 2 feet, and we were supposed to read that book for what was it, college, and that no one read the book. I don't think, because
No one ever read the book.
The book was just that big. You always just Spark Notes it, and Spark Notes was probably more helpful than
Even when it was like, read the Torah, like, read the first 3 books of the Bible. And we were like, yeah, we'll just Spark Notes the Bible. It's fine.
Yeah, the only book I read was The Lucifer Effect by Philip Zimbardo. I can't say it. And that was like the summer project, right? So we're all supposed to read the book during summer and get into class, and teacher's like, so who actually read the book? I'm the only one that raises my hand. Teacher says, okay, we're not going to worry about this book. Let's just skip it.
Oh.
In that Greek book I was reading on Greek mythology, there were some interesting points about it with the various Greek scholars who at the time were tell the stories. So he was saying that initially the people who were telling the stories really believed in the stories, and stories were pretty good, and later on people became more and more agnostic, or more and more atheistic, and the stories didn't get worse, but it's kind of like telling your kid about Santa Claus, or telling your kid about this kind of thing happening, or an Easter Bunny. It's just like a fairy tale. You don't actually think Pegasus kind of leaves the stables every morning and does X, Y, and Z.
No, there was a story where while we're talking about horses, when Hercules had to clean the stables, it was like a ridiculous, like, huge stable. So to do it, he just rerouted a river.
Right, with his strength to clean it all out and flush it out, because it was designed, those labors were designed to make it so that Hercules would never finish them.
Right.
That was Hera's main objective.
Make impossible tasks.
Exactly. Suffer. Here, child, suffer. That's what she wanted. And he just kind of outsmarted her on everyone.
That's actually pretty similar to the devil mythology, or so the devil will kind of give you like an ultimatum, this choice is this choice, and it's like the crossroad, right? And then the person or the hero would always end up kind of outsmarting the devil, and it's kind of sounds like that's where it's come from to some degree.
That just made me think of Orpheus, or when he went down to get his love from Hades. Hades said, okay, you can take her soul. You can take her back with you. Just one thing. Don't look back at her. And don't look back at this way when you get to the edge of the gates and you're about to go up to the realm. So Thanatos, Hades' son, god of death, kind of guided them back towards the earthly realm. And Orpheus turned around and poof, Thanatos took her back and said, that's that.
That's kind of like what is it, Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yes.
Where they're fleeing the city, which is burning in flames, and then the wife looks back and she turns into a pillar of salt.
Yes.
And then and then the husband whose wife turned to salt fucked his daughters.
Yeah.
Just to keep us on topic.
Well, no. That's not quite accurate, though.
No, that's how we're telling the story.
He got so drunk, and his daughters were like, he can't do anything. Let's just fuck him. It was his daughters that kind of took advantage of him for whatever reason.
Wow.
If your daughter's hot, she's hot.
True. So, or Brieann, do you have a favorite kind of myth within Greek mythology or Roman mythology?
I like a lot of Hades stuff. I like a lot of Poseidon stuff, which have we talked about Poseidon?
Not really. You brought him up as saying he was like Zeus's brother or something. He took to sea.
Yeah, god of the sea. So middle child, and his gift to humans was horses. How that ties in with water, other than
Seahorses.
fantastic. And horses can always find water. Did you know that? Horses can always find water.
I imagine most any animal can find water when they're thirsty.
I didn't mean just thirsty, but they'll always go to water.
Just anytime.
They're like, hey, let's go to the watering hole. Just talk.
Anytime a horse wants to find water. It doesn't have to be thirsty. It just knows.
It can just bring you, that is fantastic.
How do you know that? How do we know that a horse can find water even when it's not thirsty? It just knows.
Have you heard about the connection with human and horses? If someone is actually out
drowning
in the Sahara and they're dying of thirst, or wherever they are traveling and there's not a lot of water, a horse, if they have that connection with their human rider, they bring them to a body of water.
Are you sure that's not a camel?
No, camel. I don't know.
Camels are horses, right?
Camels
Can
are not
camels do
horses.
that?
Camels are humped horses.
I don't even know if horses can do this, to be honest. I mean,
Again, this is what I've heard.
what if you put them in a box with no water? Oh, will they still find water?
Fantastic. Schrodinger's horse.
Schrodinger's horse.
Saying.
So you wouldn't know if they had found water until you look in the box.
Just look in it.
The second you open the cover to that box, the horse is going to fly towards some water.
That's fantastic.
Instantly. This is on topic right now. This is great.
This is primo.
So did Hercules drown all of those horses that were in the stables when he flooded them with the river?
No. Stables were used when the other gods were coming to visit that didn't reside on Mount Olympus. They go to visit and they take their horses out. They would be left in there.
It was like the visitor's stable?
Well, they had their horses there too. But I don't think he flooded the other horses out.
Did he use a horse to find the river?
Ooh.
He did. Now, he had Pegasus, right?
Hercules did.
Hercules had Pegasus.
Yeah.
Now, what's Pegasus' story? That's a winged horse.
That's...
He flies into the clouds to find the rain clouds.
See, Pegasus, mythological beasts, not so good on with me.
I learned of his story at some point, and it's very kind of strange. I know he has a cyclical kind of thing where he is at some stable that's actually in a real place every day, and then he kind of goes off and does something epic, then comes back and it's at the stable, and then it's one of those weird kind of cyclical things.
He goes off and does all of Greece's taxes, and then he comes back to the stable and he's like, I'm just a horse. You want some water? And that's why Greece is in so much trouble now, because they don't have Pegasus anymore to do their taxes. So they all just don't pay him.
The one thing that I do know about Pegasus is he was brilliant to look at. So a lot of people could not lay eyes on him.
Brilliant, like shining like a light? Or brilliant, like...
Glittery, brilliant.
Like pretty?
Beautiful. Majestic. Pretty.
Too pretty to look at sounds like just another way to say ugly. Be like, don't look, it's too pretty. Don't look.
Well, it's like, have you ever seen like a super, super hot girl and you want to look at them, but the moment you look at them, they know that you're looking at them, so you don't want to look at them?
Like a cat?
No.
Like a cat, the moment you look at a cat, the cat's like, I know you're looking at me, and I'm going to pretend I don't know that you're looking at me.
Okay, maybe. So, something I find pretty interesting about Hercules is that he's kind of used to explain the death of monsters in the world, because the problem with like all these mythologies, this is like a common thing with many mythologies. So they create these monsters that aren't actually in the world, and they have to explain why these things aren't there. And so they often have this hero who will go through the world and vanquish all these beasts. And if I could remember these other kind of religions, I could give you some names, but it's kind of a common thing, which was kind of interesting. Like, you create these demons, and you have to actually solve this somehow to make some kind of parody with the real world.
So like Hercules killed the Gorgon and the Cyclops and Cerberus and
Medusa. I don't think he killed Cerberus.
well,
though.
Medusa was a Gorgon.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Her and her sisters were actually human turned into Gorgons. Or snake-like people.
So what were they Gorgons exactly?
The Gorgons were actually humans that were turned into these monsters because Medusa, and I want to say it's Athena.
That sounds right to me. I've heard this somewhere.
Yes, Athena turned them out of a fit of jealousy, actually, rumored. That's one myth.
Right.
Out of a fit of jealousy, these were these beautiful girls, and so she turned them ugly. So no man would want to touch them. And Athena was one of those virgins that no man will touch her.
Why wouldn't they touch her?
She had no interest in reproduction or anything of that sort. She just was like asexual. Just want nothing to do with it.
Right. And what god was she again?
Athena actually was of knowledge.
Of knowledge.
Of knowledge. They erected Athens out of Athena. And all these colleges came about in honor of Athena.
Now, this is a bit of a loose connection here, but I believe it was in the symposium where Socrates was kind of giving his theory about how wisdom comes from this female lady. I forget what her name is, but some female kind of lady, right? And she's kind of the mother of wisdom. And maybe in a way, this kind of term, mother of wisdom, or this kind of idea that wisdom is kind of feminine and comes from this whole Athenian myth.
That sounds like a good parallel at the very least, because she was very all-knowing and kind of like an intuition. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe am I going with that right?
Yeah, so it's not like she has the facts right in her head, like this is the square root of blah blah blah. It's just kind of like, that doesn't quite seem right. So maybe it's this and that, or it's more intuitive.
Yes, yeah.
Which is just intuition, another way, but.
And it's funny because her sign is the owl, who we kind of assimilated knowledge or this quiet mystic knowledge with.
And apparently owls are also seen as intelligent other places as well, like in different cultures, which are connected to kind of Greece or other places, which is weird.
That's crazy.
Like the 100-Acre Woods.
Go on.
That's Winnie the Pooh.
So, my head was not tall enough for that to hit. It
Wow.
went over.
I've never never seen Winnie the Pooh. I'm sorry.
Cool.
So, Steve, you have any particular myths that you are, very big fan of?
Yeah, I like when Hercules fights the Cyclops, and the Cyclops like gets him. I'm gonna butcher this story, so you can all just laugh at me, but I'm pretty good at telling stories really badly. So Hercules has to go to this island, and he goes to this island, or he's shipwrecked or some shit, and there's a Cyclops on that island, and then the Cyclops like gets him trapped in a cave, and with a whole bunch of sheep and stuff, and then there's a bunch of Cyclopses on that island and all that. So the Cyclops goes to like pick up and eat Hercules, and Hercules stabs his eye out. And Hercules tells the Cyclops that his name is No One. So when he stabs the thing's eyes out, he's running around with his eye stabbed out while Hercules is escaping, and he says, "Help! Help! No one's attacking me!"
Yeah.
And that's the one that I like because it's ridiculous.
That's beautiful.
Now, just a minor correction there. That was Odysseus. In
Oh,
the
that
Odyssey.
that's okay, yeah.
But yeah,
Odysseus, Hercules, whatever.
but I
That's
love that.
genius.
I love that story too because it's like pretty funny punchline, to be honest. It's really dumb, but so dumb that's funny.
Odysseus was genius because the whole the Odyssey in general was just him telling a lavish story in a sing-song type way, and that was like a really popular thing to do at that time, was to be a good storyteller. And if you were a good storyteller, you would get all of the riches in the world. You would have everything handed to you. You'd be in the king's good graces. So this whole story is all coming from him doing it like as a song, and it's what gave him like all this notoriety and fame and stuff. And it's just him like making up a story about this crazy stuff that happened, and while he's doing, he's also making jokes. Like, that's the perfect entertainer, telling an epic tale with drama and love and hate and death and comedy all wrapped together, and that's what makes it so amazing.
That's really a really good point.
I think that's how some of these myths, there's like more than one myth, because bards would go out and sing these tales, and as they get going, maybe they forgot some, or they ran into another bard, heard another kind of portion of it. Oh, I thought it was this, and they kind of lost along the way. And there's so many different facets to all these different tales. So
Now, was Odysseus also the one whose father sent him away because the fortune teller told him that he would be killed by his son? So he killed his son, but the wife switched him out with a rock. Or he ate him. So he just ate a rock, and then she sent the baby away, and then the baby came back to free the lands from a tyrant king, and it ended up being his father.
That sounds like Moses or Legend of Sargon. This legend, oh my god, it's everywhere. There's this archetype, like sending a baby away and it going to some foreign land and coming back and, taking claim to the land. That's
The Lion King. But in this one, it's like a fortune teller tells the father, your son's gonna kill you. But I just thought it was funny that she replaces him with a rock, so he eats a rock and thinks it's a baby.
I don't think that was Odysseus.
Nah, I forget who that was, but it's a pretty good story. I mean,
It is, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Rocks.
I'm right.
Eating rocks.
I thought I ate a person once, but it's a rock.
It's a rock.
Yeah. Hey, it's really actually rare that you think that you're eating a rock and it's a person. It's more along the lines of if you think you're eating a person and it's a rock.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite parts of Odysseus's journeys was the whole part with the sirens, I believe they're called. For those who aren't aware, he is traveling through the sea with his crew, and there's these things called sirens. Is this right, B? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And these sirens have a very, very beautiful voice. Like, they sing, and they sing so nice that people will kind of jump overboard to be with them, and of course drown, I think they're eaten or whatever by these sirens. And Odysseus, he wants to hear these sirens because he is that much of a person. He wants to hear them. So they're like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna jump in there. And he's a demigod, so he's pretty powerful, but he's like, I still want to hear them. Take these ropes and tie me up to the mast of the ship. And so they tie him up to the mast of the ship, and he hears them, and he wants to jump in the water. and he doesn't, and he manages to kind of scrape by. And what I find to be incredible about this story is that although he is a super powerful demigod, he has all this influence, all this kind of courage. He still knows his limits. Still knows to tie himself up because he is still going to be tempted to jump in there, which is a very. I've actually used this a lot as a metaphor for various kind of like psychological things, like sometimes you have to know your limits, even if you're pretty good at what you do or pretty good at limiting yourself. You need to know where your limits are and kind of restrain yourself from that.
That's definitely a good one. And are sirens pretty much mermaids
Kind of.
with powers?
It's different in different kind of folklore. Oftentimes they are beautiful mermaids that will kind of turn into these kind of nasty things when they get to you. So they'll entice kind of guys and it's like, oh yeah, I want to fuck that thing. And then once they get close, it turns into this kind of crazy looking monster and then it's get eaten.
I think I've seen a siren at the club before. Like from a distance, you're like, man, I really like what's going on there. And then,
It's a 10 that turns into a 2.
yeah, something like that. It's like
Okay.
a 10, and then you add the 2 digits together, and you're like, oh.
It's a 1.
And then you get eaten.
Yes. No.
You're like, she looks pretty hot, and then it turns out it's 2 people.
Well, and actually, one of my favorite tales has to do with Dionysus, the god of drinking and sex.
Oh, the wine god? The drunky McDrunk?
Dionysus. He, Zeus was his father, and again with Hera, his mother was a mortal, so he's a demigod.
Oh, so sorry. I was just trying to follow the family tree here. I'm mapping it out in like space.
Wait. Yep. No. So there's Zeus, the father, and then there's a mortal. I can't remember her name. Anyways, Zeus has sex with her. Out comes Dionysus. Now, Dionysus actually didn't come out of the mother. Hera found out about this love connection, and Hera's this jealous woman that she is convinces this woman to ask Zeus to reveal his godly self to her. And so she goes to Zeus and asks Zeus. Zeus, knowing this is going to kill her because she's human, they can't see their full god form. So he shows himself, kills the mother. But to save the child, he cut open his inner thigh and put Dionysus, the unborn fetus, in to carry full term. And he had to carry this without letting Hera know, hey, my child's alive still, you stupid. It didn't work.
So he has a leg womb.
He has a leg womb. And there he goes carrying this child to full term. And Hera finds out about it. So he had to give this child to Hermes, messenger of the gods. And so Hera finds out this child's alive and she's hunting him down. She's trying to find him. And Hermes actually hides him in his sheep. He turns Dionysus into a sheep.
Wait, he hides him in the sheep?
He turns Dionysus into a sheep.
Oh, hides him as a sheep.
As a sheep. Thank you. Yes. And that's where we get Puck, the half goat, half human. But there is no half human, half goat. It's Dionysus as a child turned into a goat to hide him from Hera. And actually, Dionysus actually becomes full term into a god, and he hides himself on Earth away from the rest of the gods.
Who the fuck is Puck? The only one that I know that's like a goat man is Pan.
Pan, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Did I say Puck? Puck's another
Yeah,
term.
Oh, he
But
has a couple in there.
No. But isn't that
Another
a
name
different...
for Pan is Puck, like
Puck
my
is-
frying Puck.
I think Puck is something. But hold on a second. So there are no like half man, half goat things?
That's not a real thing.
No, that's where there was an argument against that a bunch of scholars, when we were doing the lectures and we were having conversations about it, that was actually a big discussion and an argument because a lot of people didn't believe that they existed.
So this was kind of a story, or at least this part of the story was a way of saying, this is stupid, this doesn't fucking exist.
Right, exactly. It was just a big discussion, and I actually don't know which end is true or not. That's where the myth kind of splits hairs, and it goes into two different directions.
I mean, it reminds me of a lot of stories and like various other mythical tales where you have one group which will try to say one thing, and another group which will try to say another thing,
Right.
and you get two different versions, and sometimes these versions will actually combine in a weird way because people don't quite know the arguments that went before it. They'll say, "Oh, this one has this aspect to it. Oh, this aspect," and they'll just mash them together.
Right. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions I have about this story that maybe you'll be able to fill me in on. One of them is, so Zeus chooses to have sex with this human woman. What kind of bird was he?
Bird of prey. No. No.
He's a predator.
He's a predator. Well, kind of, if you look at
So
it. But
then you say, like, Hera's, oh, that jealous woman that she is. Well, to be fair, Zeus cheats on her every chance he gets.
absolutely.
Like, beyond every chance he gets. Like, even when there's not a chance, he rapes women to cheat on her. Like, it's...
And that's another discussion that all the male gods were like that.
So if any woman in all of history and mythos ever had a reason to be jealous, it was
Hera is the
Hera.
reason. But some of the stuff she enacted on others as revenge might have taken it a little bit too far out.
Well, yeah,
of
she's
the
a
way.
woman. She's going to misappropriate her anger towards everybody.
Oh. Okay.
That's how you take a beautiful podcast and you bring it to a screeching halt.
Bring it to its knees. No.
So what kind of bird was Zeus? That was funny when I said that.
No bird, no bull, no. He didn't actually disguise himself as an animal. One of the rare times.
So a human can't see a god in its true form or it will die. So what was he when he fucked her?
Takes another form of a human being. There's
So he was just another person.
the queen's king went off onto a journey. And so he took the form of, and actually that's the story of Hercules, took the form of the king, had sex, impregnated her with Hercules. The king comes back, has sex with his wife, and she doesn't know because she thinks it was the king the whole time. And she actually bore two sons, one of the king, which was a weaker person, if you will, and then she gave birth to Hercules.
So the way I imagine this story is that there's this random woman who has a husband, and then she's like, she has sex with this other guy one night when she's drunk, and then she goes back to him and she's like, well, I'm pretty sure it was Zeus. I mean, he said he was Zeus, so like, that's kind of like Zeus. And he's like, what kind of bird was he? She's like, no, he was just like a dude. And he's like, I'm Zeus. And I'm like, well, I can't fucking deny Zeus.
Remember that whole parallel back to the Virgin Mary thing?
Mm-hmm.
I that's where I would draw that from is maybe she had relations with someone she shouldn't out of
Right.
marriage and
And then he got mad and killed her. And that was her seeing Zeus's real form, his anger.
ooh.
Man, I just got deep.
Yes.
That's the most smart thing I ever said.
Now, I'm gonna be a dick real quick.
Yes.
And just to clarify, the whole Virgin Mary thing, that is kind of after the fact. So that's a mistranslation. And it's kind of a purposeful mistranslation, you could say. Because initially it was this, Joseph was the father and it was kind of God divine. And that's usually kind of how it was, in these myths. But then either mistranslated it or they purposely misinterpreted it to be virgin, which you could see, based off the language, maybe being understandable. But they're kind of seeing virginity as being a great thing or a pristine thing, and the fact that Mary wasn't a virgin kind of made her seem lesser. So they started creating this narrative around her that she was a Virgin Mary. She hadn't had sex, so that means she was more pristine. And there's actually a lot of different groups that would actually kind of worship Mary herself because they saw her as a kind of major religious figure, and her being a non-virgin kind
Like
of
the
made her
Catholics. The Catholics pray to the Virgin Mary.
Right.
But I see it less as like they wanted her to seem more pristine and more like it's a much bigger miracle. If God's child doesn't come from a man and a woman having sex and like the man happens to give the seed of God, but rather that it's a miracle, like something that's impossible is what happened. And that's kind of the mythos of Jesus altogether, is all these things that he does are these miracles that aren't possible.
Yeah. That's also probably part of it as well. I mean, you have a lot of people saying half God, half man, which kind of sounds a lot better than, fully human but divine by God.
Yep.
And that's the definition of a demigod, is half man, half human.
Right.
Are there any female demigods?
Oh, you had to ask.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good question.
No, it's an excellent question. I don't. Okay, yes, Helena Troy. Helena Troy was a female demigod.
Birthed of
Zeus, the father. Mother, I don't remember the mother. I'm not.
it was probably
Sure.
a goose.
Mother Goose.
Is there a reason why Zeus had so much sex with random people?
He's horny.
Because there was a lot of what's it called when you're unfaithful?
That's a very broad question.
There's one word, it's like in something. There were a lot of people who were unfaithful to their partners, and they needed excuses.
They need an explanation as to.
So one of the biggest things I hear about the Greek gods that people really like is that they're not like the Christian god or the Jewish god, or et cetera, where they have flaws. So the Greek gods do have flaws, and they have jealousy, and they feel emotions, and they do things that are fucked up. And a lot of people really like that because it humanizes gods and gives you the opportunity to say, okay, well, we live in this super fucked up world, and I can see how that makes sense because the gods are just as fucked up as we are, if not more.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's kind of maybe accentuating or over dramatizing like these aspects of human, life. Because people probably wouldn't be as fucked up as Zeus and turning into swans. And
If I could turn into a swan and rape a girl, I probably wouldn't. I would do a lot of things as a swan, but raping a woman is not one of them.
I honestly might turn into a bull, but
There's also one where he turned into a bear. I don't think I would change into anything to have sex with anything. No.
Really?
Really? No. Just not my...
A pie?
Pie? No.
You could turn
Cake?
into a piece of cake to have sex with a piece of cake.
It'd be a piece of cake.
I might turn
No.
into a blow-up doll.
A male blow-up doll? Because that's kind of useless. Or a female blow-up doll, because then you're having a man have sex with you. Which is cool if that's, like, I'm not saying there's anything against that.
I'm going to leave this to be ambiguous here.
Ooh.
Viewers, you decide.
Right? It's now a choose your own adventure. If you want Nate to be a male blow-up doll, tweet at us, male blow-up doll. If you want him to be a female blow-up doll, tweet at us, female blow-up doll.
You gotta imagine they have those ones that are male, but have like the giant dildo coming off it. I could be that, But although I could be one that has a hole in it.
What kind of a why does a woman need the whole male body? She just wants the dick.
Or the tongue. They have one with tongues.
So
Not that
so
I should.
is it like a sprinkler and it just like flips back and forth?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But-
Now we know all about blow up dolls with flippy tongues.
Well, it's like, why do guys need the whole female body? Can't they just use a hole? Well,
Because the female body is erotic. The male body is not erotic.
I don't agree.
Well, that's because you're a woman.
Fair, but I don't...
Flawless
they're-
logic.
Well, no, they're both very erotic. Just in different ways. If you look, what is so sensual and powerful and erotic about a female to you? What draws you?
Females, even other females, will say that like the female body is alluring in itself.
The whole body?
Yes, the female body and figure as a whole.
Figure. Okay. I agree the shape is more flattering. Male shapes tend not to be. But have you ever heard or looked at a female go, ooh, to a male's arm? Because they're really drawn to arms. And that vein, because guys have that vein that just goes up and they can just make it pop out right into their arms.
Do you have a forearm fetish?
No, I'm just saying that a lot of girls like arms.
Now, to connect this back to Greek mythology, an aspect of Greek art I think is pretty interesting, and might not get this fully accurate with all of history with Greek, but at least in a lot of the artworks, you'll notice that the penis is very, very small. And it seems kind of strange. They very de-emphasize the genitals, especially. So the statue of David, for instance, is the famous one where he doesn't even have a cock almost. And the reason why they did this is because they saw kind of the genitals to be a kind of a scourge or a kind of an imperfection. So they had these awesome looking kind of people, and then they had these kind of weird things sticking out of their torso. It's kind of, what the fuck is that? And this kind of comes from Platonism in a way, because Plato had this idea of perfect forms and perfect images, and kind of they wanted to be higher, like see themselves as kind of gods themselves in a way, or maybe not that high, but so they would minimize the most human aspect of themselves, which was the genitals, and also kind of the dirtiest aspect of themselves.
And if you look at the sculptures of Aphrodite's, again, supposed to be the most beautiful, the perfect image. She has a feminine figure, but she has fat rolls and flaw looking, what we would see today in our culture anyway, flaws like cellulite and fat rolls.
Is that the one of her laying in the clam?
No, I didn't even think of that one.
Is that Aphrodite?
That is her.
Yeah, so she's like laying in a clam.
Yes, because she's of the sea.
She's like a little pearl.
Yep. That's fantastic. No, it's the one of her sitting down. There's one of her sitting down and she's kind of, I don't want to say hunched over, but her breasts aren't as visible. Her arms kind of covering them, but you can look at her side and she's got the love handles, that bit that females don't like about themselves, and that kind of like side boob kind of thing going on.
Well, in today's society, they don't. But
Right.
if you look at like even comic books back 30, 40 years ago, not even that long for a lot of them, you'll see that there are ads in there for like bulk up for women. Like, are you too skinny? You feel self-conscious at the beach? You buy this formula and you can get fat. Because it was gross for women to be skinny back then.
Right.
And it's changed to kind of morphed to be now
The
be
opposite.
super skinny is really hot, which I don't necessarily agree with, but as a society, it's kind of morphed the image of women into something unrealistic versus beauty back then being something really realistic in a sense. I mean, some women just, that's not how they're built, and it is what it is.
A big aspect of that is just supply and demand. So back in the day, access to nutrition and resources was very scarce. So being fat or being larger kind of showed you were a wealthy person or a person of status. Kind of similar to back in Britain when they first got sugar. Having really black, disgusting teeth was a sign of status because it showed that you had access to lots of sugar. So it's one of those things. And now that we have plenty of food's not really a problem. Everyone has access to it.
Disagree. Go on.
Okay, everyone in the U.S. for the most part has access to it. It's not the majority.
Mm-hmm.
They, having a larger weight is not seen as a sign of status. Rather, kind of working out and all that kind of stuff and looking fit is more of a sign of status because it shows, you put an effort into your body to look good. So it's kind of flipped in that way. But if you go to other countries, there's one country in Africa where the big thing is having these very, very, how do you put it, unhealthily large wives. And they will actually take them out to this place for like a month in some kind of tent, and they'll hire these people to force feed them. So they get way, 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 way large, and it's very kind of strange. So it's different cultures, different kind of climates.
Well, and back then, if you look during the Greek mythos time, there was less populated areas. So the drive, a big drive was population, reproduction, and being on the healthy side or large side meant you were healthier and that you were successful in bearing children, specifically sons, and that you were going to not only make it through, but they were going to be healthy as well.
Right, that's a great point. Yeah, it's definitely an indicator of success as far as your life goes.
Yeah, and here, now in this day and age, and we're debating all these myths and kind of the lessons between them, now we don't need to repopulate as much. In fact, we should, I would assume, slow down. And so maybe that's why our views are, one reason why our views are kind of doing a 180 here, maybe.
Definitely possible. I know my grandmother attributes people who are heavier in weight as being happier, because when you're happy, you eat more, you eat full meals, things like that. But if you're depressed, you're less likely to eat. And that's, that's not necessarily a scientific fact. That's her perception. And I would assume that's a lot to do with her generation. So if she sees me, let's say, as her grandson being heavier, then she'll say, okay, you're happy because you're heavier.
Right, that's an interesting point. So maybe in the climate she was brought up in, she was, when she felt really good and felt really happy, she would reward herself with a nice little treat, nice little meal. Whereas, let's say in this generation, I'm not saying this is proven or anything, but let's say someone who's depressed is more likely to eat to make them feel better because they get that dopamine hit.
Well,
so
that
could have changed, in that way.
That, and if you were bigger, she likes it because if you get sick, you have something to live off of. Because if you're sick, you might not be taking in any food or anything like that. You may be vomiting a lot, blah, blah, blah. So if you get really, really sick and you were skinny back then, you would basically die. So being bigger was actually a healthy weight, because literally it means you're healthy right now, because if you were sick, then you would get skinny.
Yeah, yes, it's interesting. I know that there's data on this with the weights, how the weights changed, and it changed pretty quickly once the Industrial Revolution and particularly in the early 1900s, where we started getting really nice food crops in. That's when the weight started increasing quite a bit, and people used to be very, very skinny, unhealthily skinny back then, and I think they definitely went up more to a healthy weight. Also, just to be, blunt here, healthy weight is a very, very large kind of a measure, which is dependent upon the person. Some people, they can be very, very skinny, but at a healthy weight. Some people they can look large, or they can be large, and they can be a unhealthy weight or unhealthy weight. It's up for your individual doctor to kind of talk with you and decide about that.
So many factors involved.
Also, it's not even that body fat's kind of the thing. It's the blood markers that are correlated to those kind of things. So if you have good blood markers, it doesn't really matter what your body weight is or your body fat is.
Why does your blood need markers? Is it like trying to color pictures, or?
So this is how it works. So when your body is trying to fill in the color book, it needs various shades. So it has crayons for certain parts, but then it also has colored pencils for other parts. And then it uses whiteout every once in a while. Those are like white blood cells, but I was going to call them whiteout. Now, the markers, they come in for the final picture. Now, you might ask, how can they go over the crayon, right? Doesn't make sense? Well, they fill in the gaps between the crayon. Crayon leaves little marks in between. That's what the markers are for.
I imagine they would do a lot of the outline, the contouring, and the accent shadings and things like that as well.
Well, in concept or theory, yes, but in actuality, it's more just kind of this general kind of final production. You would think that, but it's like there's one way to make bacon, then it's actually how bacon's made. B, you had something to add there?
That was just a really good analogy I'm stuck on. Now I really want some bacon.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I think that we should probably go get some bacon.
Yeah, dude, let's go.
Okay. So I'm definitely glad we had this conversation. Greek mythology is so deep, and none of us are experts on it. Some of us more than others, but overall, I think that we really got somewhere as far as discussing themes, discussing particular stories, and a lot of incest and rape. And that's really the core of what makes a great discussion.
Especially the incest.
Absolutely.
Did you love the episode? If so, give us a rating on iTunes. It helps us be seen by everyone else. Also, if you want to get at us, we're at WNTT1 on Twitter. You can give us criticism, what you liked, what you didn't like, what was funny, and also just tell us how wrong we were. Until next time.